Data points and red flags are emerging, and you'll want to pay attention to these because the power elite do. So I say we should too. Stay tuned and find out. Welcome to the Wealth Transfer. I'm Terry Sacka. So when I say red flags, folks, we're talking red flags that are data point driven that you want to pay attention to, because when the power elite pay attention to the red flags, that's our indicator. And so if you're all in on the market system or trying to make certain decisions, you're going to want to know this, because these data points are straight up real and things are happening as we've been predicting, going into even elements of the food crisis and inflation. Now, I know we talked about inflation, I think, a few weeks ago, but the actual food crisis that's coming is not going to be an easy one to swallow. Now, we in America don't quite see the food crisis because we have food, but there's countries all over the world right now, Russia and Brazil, you name it, they're having food increases, price increases, 50% on things. And it's extraordinary. You know, the commercial we have here in the program from Cornerstone, you know, it's hard to believe because we don't see it here, but the locusts are real and they're destroying Africa and the Middle East regions, destroying food crops and production, and it's causing a crisis in the food category. And I can only say, once you have food shortages, you start to have civil unrest. Just something happening. There's something weird dynamic, and it's nothing more than what we're seeing now happening in our country. The extraordinary amount of dark evil that has come across this land, what we just empowered through this illegally rigged election, is unbelievable in the spirit. Some people they're just, oh, it's just an election, blah, blah. No, it was deeper because of the spirit it ushered in, the darkness, the horrendous nature of some of these perversions that they're now going to make legal. And it's causing a massive, what I call, planned collision. You just have to go no farther back than to Cloward Piven. And this is all socialist doctrine. It goes back into the communists. And I still contend Barack Obama's the president right now, secret president, not Joe Biden. We all know that. He hasn't even given a State of the Union address like you should. I don't even think they trust him up there for an hour. That's why. But the thing is, it is Barack Obama and all of those people, they're all Cloward Piven type. They're basically meaning you overwhelm the system of a nation with welfare, break down the economy through the middle class, and then usher in a socialist utopia. Now, I know that's the plan, not exactly sure if that succeeds, but we're seeing the fruits of that being sown over these years, and you want to pay attention to it. So I encourage you, go to Wealth Transfer News on the YouTube. Go to Rigged Podcast if you want to hear different updates. It's once a week. I think there's some really good information on that. But I want to get into showing you what I mean by red flags, because they're real, legit. And if the elites are doing it, folks, we should be paying attention. So take a look. This is from the Wall Street Reporter. Red flags emerge in U.S. stocks with insiders rushing to sell. According to Bloomberg, the list of warning signs for the rally that pushed U.S. stocks to another record is growing longer as the S&P 500 index embarked on a torrid 4-day advance. Corporate executives and officers are stepping up, selling their shares in their own companies. So much so, there were 5 insider sales for every one buy. There's something to say about that, folks. The reason they understand this from the insider's point of view is they have been pumping the stock market up through money printing. Now, a lot of us probably catch on to that element because we know they're printing money. We just don't know exactly how it's kind of maneuvering in. As they've already done a good job of destroying a fragment of the middle class business cycle. I mean, I know so many people who have had to sell assets to survive, and it's just been horrid for a small business because of lockdowns, not just in California, but around the country. These elites are aware because it's been orchestrated by the Federal Reserve. And now we have Janet Yellen up there, who's already said that they're willing to print, and all it's going to do is destroy this. And now they're talking about reparations and all sorts of other stuff. I'm like, huh? Like, I just don't get, well, I do get it, but the fact is we don't have that kind of money. And it's just an insane concept. It just is, let alone a complete reverse discrimination, but I mean, who's counting? But the thing is, it's not something we can afford to do. And they think they're going to do this wealth tax on the super wealthy. I kind of get that, above 50 million. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. I don't see how they can figure that out. These people are smart, but we're dealing with elites that understand the system. And what we try to do is we, the people, just need to try to learn information on what they're doing. And when they do certain things, we should react accordingly, because I had a very, very dear friend tell me one time, we can't stop them in the course that they have. But if we identify what they're doing, we can get on the right side of the fence and be recipients of a wealth transfer instead of allowing our wealth to be put away. So a very interesting stuff, but how do we know that this market, which should have crashed, is up purely by money printing? Take a look at this. So this is the S&P 500 versus the Fed assets, or basically what they're money printing. And if you notice in the middle, January of 2020, literally the beginning of last year before all this started, the green line, which is the S&P, collapses. Now, we all know that was a big sell-off. Matter of fact, it destroyed so many people's lives. But then you see the blue line come from the bottom all the way up. Those are data points of money printing, where the Federal Reserve came in and started buying U.S. Treasuries at 40 and 50 billion a week. So if you go to the right of this gray area, you see the blue line and the green line equally matched. Now, what are they telling you there is they're showing you that the stock market sold off in the righteous way because it was supposed to clean house, which it didn't. And then it turned around because they started printing trillions, and not just bailouts, but then the tens of billions weekly in buying U.S. debt. So think about it. They're creating a debt note, an IOU, and then turning right around and buying it back. It doesn't make any sense, right? But it's not. It's not supposed to, because it's almost like laundering money kind of concept. They issue it to the banks turn around and sell it back to the Fed. This is good for a short term. And I believe they think, well, I believe it's more nefarious, but I think in the short term, they think, okay, if we do this, we can get things cleared through this pandemic scenario, and eventually we can kickstart the economy. But folks, that's not the plan. In the end, if the central bank is going to stay in control, which I contend that may not be the case. I contend there may be patriots out there ready to bring the power back to the people and the monetary system back to the people, but that's another conversation. But if this continues, it's by design to destroy your buying power. As this buys less and inflation rages beyond food, cars, batteries, you name it, something we need to be ready for, because the future of our buying power standard of living is in jeopardy, and we just need to be hedged accordingly. And I think this is one good place to do it. Be right back.
The world is at a tipping point. Our fragile food supply is being destroyed by locusts and fires. A global viral pandemic is collapsing the economic supply chain, impacting financial markets all around the world, leaving you and your finances more vulnerable than ever. Now is the time to protect and preserve your assets. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you've worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our asset specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and the challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 today. That's 888-747-3309. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So we hear a lot about the money printing and we understand the concept, but when you see it, you know that there has to be a consequence to this. Nothing goes straight up, and it usually, as gravity would tell you, comes down. It's just how fierce will it come down. And so we know there was a period there, 2018, 19, where they tried to make it seem like, oh, we're going to start paying down some of this, money we were taking off the Federal Reserve. And there's a little negative where all of a sudden they were paying back some of that debt. Well, then you saw it extremely U-turn. And I'm talking extreme levels. Take a look at this, rocket ship style. This is over the past year, the Fed balance sheet that has grown at unprecedented speed. Now look down there at the right, you see it actually dipped below zero. That was the fake to make us think that they were doing something. Now look at the straight up trajectory in the trillions added to the Fed balance sheet. Now that's a big deal because they can't put it back into the system. I contend anyway. Now I know there's people who say, oh, eventually they'll just sell it back into the system. I contend there's a different thing going down. I say worldwide, as they're printing their currencies, they're blowing this system up to usher in not just a great reset concept, which to me is total, European technocratic insanity, but they want central bank digital currencies where this will disappear. And I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but it's coming. It's probably within the next 2-3 years. And so what they're doing is blowing out the system by printing money, taking advantage of it. And what they're really doing is probably laundering a lot of that money. Because if you think when they bail out like the endowment for the arts for $200 million, that it goes to the arts, you're probably kidding yourself. You'd be surprised how much of that money ends up going back towards the politicians in other ways. It's just the way the system works in DC. But the money printing is excessive. And there are no doubt power elites that are getting extremely wealthy off it while we, the people, suffer. So what we need to do as the people of the country is position ourselves to get ready for the extraordinary inflation and destruction of the currency that we have. And of course, that would be this, one of them anyway. It's going to protect you in the long run against the collapse of the US currency, the dollar. So they're printing the money. But the problem is it's the economy. A lot of folks just see the stock market going up and they say, oh, well, everything will be okay. We got this money printing going. I can just see financial advisors right now. Oh, they're printing trillions. We're going to have a roaring 20s all over again. It's going to boom. It's going to be fantastic. Get ready. Get in the market. I see them say that. Now, to some extent, there's going to be some truth in that as they come out with the next 2 trillion stimulus, and they will have to do more, by the way. This is all by design. This is planned. They will keep doing bailouts and stimulus. They'll come up for a reason, and they'll keep doing it for the next 2-3 years. Now, in the process of doing it, though, is it a real economy? No. And take a look at this to find out. Now, this is a real GDP growth, what we produce as a nation versus or without debt. So with debt, without debt. But look at back in just like 2007, we were actually positive. And when we exclude debt, we actually were a real economy at that point producing. But ever since 2013, really, you see in the red, we basically, if you take debt out, we don't have an economy. And if you see for the last two sectors there on the right, we have zero economy because the red is serious negative GDP growth when we take debt out, telling us the only reason we have any sustained economy right now, perceived economy for optics only, is printing this out of thin air, issuing it into the system, which most of us are not partaking in, right? They may flip us a few nickels, but they're bailing out the system to the tune of trillions. This is a debt-based economy. If they don't print currency, the system collapses. And I contend they can never recover from that. So it comes to a point where the printing doesn't do anything anymore. And these are warning signs. These are red flags. This is telling you we are near the end of a certain cycle. Now, another way to back that up, take a look at this. You'll enjoy this one. According to Bloomberg, now this is the 10-year TIPS yield. But I just want you to notice in the very bottom there, that's zero. And you saw it went negative, kind of came back up. Look how negative we are on the right side of the yield. Now, what that means is negative interest rates. There's nothing healthy about negative interest rates. Most of us don't really understand negative interest rates because, well, we never had it. It's telling you the money is worthless. Meaning if you buy $10,000 in treasury bonds, backing up this, you get 9,000 back, that's negative rate. Who would want to do that? Wait until it starts coming to the banking system and they force you to spend currency that you hold in the banking system. Now, these are very serious red flags, folks. When we start going negative, it's telling you a country's bond, which is their IOU, which is our we got you covered kind of thing, just trust us kind of thing, which I'm being sarcastic. You know why? Because there is no trust in that system. They are taking advantage of our savings, our hard-earned wealth, we the people, future standard of living and inheritance to our children's children by stealing that wealth through inflation, making this worth less and less and less. That's the scary part. And so if you have savings, if you have IRAs, if you have cash in the bank, and it's for long term, it's probably in a risky position. Whereas stuff like physical silver have a tendency, the reason the price goes up, I know it's manipulated, but you'll see it's going to continue to rise. As the price of silver goes up, it's offsetting the buying power you're losing when this goes down. And they know it. They know this is a debt-based society. They know that negative interest rates are to force you to do something and to steal from your future, especially those in retirement. There was the time in retirement we relied on interest rates. We relied on bonds paying 6 or 7%. We would do that. We call that income. We would even buy certain stocks because they would pay dividend income. And if we had an X amount of money in retirement and it was buying certain bonds, whether it be municipal or government or some stock with dividend, we could calculate a certain amount of income monthly based off that. Now, I know they're out there selling annuities, which would be the most tragic thing you can do right now, because the inflation that is coming will never keep up. And so the annuities lock you in and they give you a certain amount of growth, but the inflation will be so much higher than that. So please stay away from those. But we don't have the opportunity to get interest anymore, is why we need to have protection with a portion of our portfolio. something that we're not used to doing, but something we better take serious. So I got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The world is at a tipping point. Our fragile food supply is being destroyed by locusts and fires. A global viral pandemic is collapsing the economic supply chain, impacting financial markets all around the world, leaving you and your finances more vulnerable than ever. Now is the time to protect and preserve your assets. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you've worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our asset specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and the challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 today. That's 888-747-3309. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. And so I show you all of those red flags because now I'm getting to the meat of we the people. And this is the part that bothers me. As the power elite are getting extraordinarily rich, which I gotta admit, not that I would ever say I agree with a Democrat, but I'll give Warren some credit, and some of those folks that are doing it, I understand. A ultra wealth tax on anything above 50 million could generate X amount. And now it's what they do with that money that probably would 100% disagree. But I somehow kind of understand, because if you're sitting on 100 million and above, then you're not really hurting, and it's probably not going to be a big deal. And the reason I'm saying that is because we the people deserve better. We the people deserve opportunity, entrepreneurial opportunity, low regulation and low tax to have opportunity for us and our future and our family going forward. So this is why it bothers me, because look at the labor participation rate right now. Take a look at this. Now this really goes back, labor, force participation rate. It goes back at the big gray area there on the left. That's 2008. Ever since 2008, we the people have had less opportunity for work. And then we started, actually after the 2016 election was the first time it stopped going down because of the policies that President Trump put in place. And we actually started rising in labor participation. And then you see again on the right, it collapsed completely. Look how off we are from 2008 labor participation, meaning jobs. Where are they? Now they started coming back. They started bringing manufacturing back. But then once this administration just got changed over, once this election was totally rigged up, look at the very first thing that they did in an executive order. Yeah, they canceled oil pipelines, destroying tens of thousands of jobs. They're destroying jobs all over the place, in ICE and you name it. Really good paying jobs. So instead of creating jobs, they are destroying jobs within the first 30 days. That seems a little backwards, doesn't it? Not if you're Cloward Biden, it's not, you see? So I'm saying we the people are not getting the opportunity. And who's really not getting the opportunity? Take a look at this. Millennials' share of household wealth remains stubbornly low as a percentage of household wealth by median age. Just look over in the left there. That's the red line. In 2020, millennials are in their early 30s by now in their age, and they only own 3% of all household wealth. And if you go up and you see since 1990, the baby boomers were the ones that basically dominate the vast majority of household wealth at 57%. Now, that's causing problems, you see. That's why we got zombie youth running around. I mean zombies. You ever see these youth that are in college and they're making arguments for socialism? I mean, wow, they're just so detached from reality. But you see, these are talking points of progressives, and they're just designed to destroy everything we know as freedom and opportunity for we the people. So they're not making it, and now they're angry. But the problem is, if they go to the one side of the political spectrum, they're eventually going to be controlled, enslaved by socialism. If we go the other way, there's risk involved, but there's opportunity to create and do entrepreneurialism that each person can take on if they choose to. Now, there's a cycle to all this money printing, and this one is a graph that is really in your face showing you what's coming. We call this diminishing returns of all monetary and fiscal stimulus, money printing. Increasing sums yield diminishing results while increasing risk. Now, if you notice, there's QE1, 2, 3, QE, Fed stimulus, pandemic stimulus, plandemic stimulus, plandemic stimulus. This curve is walking us out. But the effectiveness of stimulus in generating broad-based opportunity, reducing wealth inequality, red line crossing over, coming down, financial and social orders crash. We're crossing over the economic scale. It will crash. And the vast majority of us will lose tremendous opportunity to make wealth as the power elite start taking everything as they're putting it into the system. Here's a great paragraph to explain it for you right here. Though few seem to be aware of it, we're tottering on the cliff edge. The final manifestation of central bankers' insane folly is the promise that endless wealth can be yours if only you join the speculative extremes racing over the cliff. Maybe the immense herd of speculators will all magically grow wings once they're in free fall. That's no more insane than counting on speculative asset bubbles to magically create enterprise and jobs. That's my take. You see, creating enterprise, businesses, opportunities, expanding from 1 dry cleaners to 3 dry cleaners, opportunity for anyone who wants to pick up the book and start studying and take a great idea. And you know what? Forget all this racist garbage in this country. It's all such a joke. Every single human being has a choice to pick up books instead of a gun, to pick up books instead of a cell phone and start paying attention and become entrepreneurial and start a job. Great success stories all through this country, folks. And I'm merely saying these red flags are serious. And if we, the people, want to be on the right side of the fence, I'd highly recommend at least having a good dose of this and get yourself protected. So until next week, God bless each and every one of you. And remember, community first, work our way out. Next week.
The world is at a tipping point. Our fragile food supply is being destroyed by locusts and fires. A global viral pandemic is collapsing the economic supply chain, impacting financial markets all around the world, leaving you and your finances more vulnerable than ever. Now is the time to protect and preserve your assets. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you've worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our asset specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and the challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 today. That's 888-747-3309. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.